everyone. Welcome back to the English Learning Podcast, where we help you improve your English speaking, listening, and confidence. I'm your host, Jason, and today we have an exciting topic for you: unlocking your fluent English brain. And of course, I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Julia. Hey, Julia.
Hey Jason, hi everyone. I'm super excited about today's episode because we're going to break down the secrets to thinking and speaking in English naturally without hesitation.
Yes, and let me ask our listeners a quick question. Do you ever feel like your brain just stops working when you try to speak English? Maybe you know the words, you know the grammar, but when it's time to talk, boom, your mind goes blank. If that sounds familiar, don't worry. You're not alone.
That's so true. A lot of English learners struggle with this, and it's not because they're bad at English, it's because their brain isn't trained to think in English yet. But don't worry. Today, we'll show you how to train your brain to unlock fluency and speak English more naturally and confidently.
Exactly. By the end of this episode, you'll learn powerful techniques to stop translating in your head, think in English faster, and speak fluently without overthinking. So, get ready.
And before we start, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you find today's tips helpful, share this with a friend who's also learning English.
All right, let's dive in. First, let's talk about why speaking English feels difficult for many learners. Julia, why do so many people struggle with fluency? All right, Julia, let's start by addressing the big question. Why do so many English learners struggle to speak fluently? Even when they know a lot of words and grammar, they still find it hard to talk naturally. Why is that?
Great question, Jason. The truth is, speaking English isn't just about knowing words and grammar. It's about training your brain to think in English. And most learners don't train their brain the right way. That's why they feel stuck when they try to speak.
That makes a lot of sense. I've heard so many English learners say things like, I can understand English, but I can't speak it. Or, I know the words, but when I try to talk, my brain freezes.
Exactly. And there are three main reasons for this: overthinking, lack of practice, and fear of making mistakes. Let's break them down one by one.
Good idea. Let's start with overthinking. A lot of English learners translate every sentence in their head before they speak. Instead of thinking in English naturally, they're trying to find the right words in their native language first.
Yes, and that takes too much time. Imagine if you had to translate every word when you're having a conversation. It would be exhausting. That's why so many learners speak slowly or hesitate too much.
Right? And that leads to the second problem: lack of practice. Many learners focus too much on studying English, but not enough on using it in real life. They read books, memorize grammar rules, but they don't actually speak English every day.
That's a huge issue. Speaking is like a muscle. You have to train it regularly to get stronger. If you don't practice speaking, your brain won't get comfortable forming sentences quickly.
And that brings us to the third reason: fear of making mistakes. A lot of learners are afraid of saying something wrong or sounding silly. So, instead of speaking, they stay quiet.
Yes, but the truth is, mistakes are a natural part of learning. Even native speakers make mistakes all the time. If you're too afraid to talk, you'll never give your brain the chance to improve.
Absolutely. So, to summarize, overthinking, lack of practice, and fear of mistakes are the biggest reasons why speaking English feels difficult. But don't worry, we're going to show you how to fix all of these problems and unlock your fluent English brain.
Yes, And the secret is understanding how your brain learns languages. So let's move on to the next section, the science of unlocking a fluent English brain.
Now that we know why speaking English feels difficult, let's talk about how your brain actually learns a language and what you can do to unlock fluency faster. Julia, have you ever noticed how babies learn languages compared to adults?
Oh, absolutely. Babies don't sit down with a grammar book or memorize word lists. Instead, they listen, imitate, and repeat words naturally without even thinking about it.
Exactly. And that's because their brains are wired for language learning. But here's the interesting part. Adults can train their brains to learn English the same way. The key is to stop thinking about English as a school subject and start treating it like a real-life skill.
That's so true. And there's actually a scientific reason why this works. When you speak a language, your brain uses something called neural pathways. The more you use English, the stronger these pathways become, making it easier and faster to speak without hesitation.
Right. Think of it like a road in your brain. If you rarely use English, the road is small and slow. But the more you practice, the road gets bigger and smoother, so your thoughts flow in English naturally.
I love that example. And here's another cool fact. When you think in English instead of translating, you activate a different part of your brain, the same part that native speakers use. This helps you speak faster and more naturally.
That's why it's so important to train your brain to think in English. The more you do it, the easier fluency becomes. But here's the mistake many learners make. They think they need to learn more words and grammar first. In reality, they need to activate their fluency pathways by actually speaking more.
Yes, and that's why today we're going to give you some powerful brain training techniques that will help you stop translating, start thinking in English, and speak more fluently.
That's right. Up next, we'll share 6 powerful techniques to train your brain for fluency. Get ready. These are game changers. All right. Now it's time for the most important part. How to train your brain to think and speak in English fluently. We're going to share 6 powerful techniques that will help you stop translating in your head and start speaking naturally. Ready, Julia?
Absolutely. These techniques are simple, but they are extremely effective if you use them consistently. So, let's get started with the first one.
The first technique is the no translation rule. This means you should stop translating from your native language into English. Instead, try to think directly in English.
Yes, and one way to do this is to describe things around you in English. For example, if you see a car, instead of thinking of the word in your native language first, just say in English, "That's a red car. The car is moving fast." Keep it simple.
Exactly. Start with small thoughts and build from there. Over time, your brain will get used to thinking in English first.
The second technique is talking to yourself in English. I know this might sound funny, but it really works.
It does. You can describe what you're doing out loud. For example, I'm making coffee. Now I'm adding sugar. The coffee smells great. This helps your brain create stronger English connections.
And if you don't want to talk out loud, just do it in your head. Narrate your day, your actions, and even your emotions in English.
The third technique is called the 5-second rule. When someone asks you a question in English, don't take too long to think. Respond within 5 seconds.
This trains your brain to think quickly in English. Even if your answer isn't perfect, just say something. The more you do this, the faster your fluency will improve.
Yes, fluency isn't about speaking perfectly. It's about speaking naturally. So don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Next, we have shadowing. This means listening to a native speaker and repeating what they say immediately.
Right. You can do this with podcasts, movies, or YouTube videos. Just pause, repeat, and copy the rhythm, pronunciation, and tone. This helps train your brain to sound more natural.
It's like training your brain and mouth to work together faster. Try this for just 5 minutes a day, and you'll see big improvements.
Another great tip: think in phrases, not just individual words.
Yes, many learners focus on single words, but native speakers use phrases and expressions. For example, instead of thinking happy, think I'm feeling really happy today.
Great point. Learning common phrases and sentence patterns will help your brain speak faster and more naturally.
And finally, the most important tip: speak every single day.
Even if you don't have a language partner, you can record yourself, talk to AI chatbots, or join online English groups. The more you speak, the more natural it becomes.
Yes, fluency is all about consistent practice. If you use these 6 techniques daily, your brain will start thinking in English automatically.
That's right. So now, let's move on to the final part: how to make these habits a part of your daily life. Now, we've shared some amazing techniques to train your brain for fluency. But let's be honest, many English learners struggle with fear and self-doubt. Julia, have you ever felt nervous speaking a new language?
Absolutely. I remember being so afraid of making mistakes. I thought people would judge me, so I avoided speaking, but that only slowed down my progress.
That's a very common problem. Many learners think, what if I make a mistake? What if people laugh at me? But here's the truth: mistakes are a natural part of learning. Even native speakers make mistakes.
Exactly. Think about how kids learn a language. They make mistakes all the time, but they keep speaking and improving. They don't feel embarrassed.
So, the first step to overcoming fear is to accept that mistakes are normal. Instead of saying, I'm afraid of mistakes, say, mistakes help me grow.
That's so important. Instead of being afraid of mistakes, see them as progress. Every mistake teaches you something new.
Yes, if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning. So, celebrate your mistakes. They mean you're improving.
Another tip: don't wait until you feel ready to speak. If you keep waiting, you'll never start.
That's right. Confidence comes after you start speaking, not before. The more you speak, the more comfortable you become.
Yes, and here's a little trick. If you feel nervous, slow down your speech and breathe. It helps you stay calm and focused.
Another important point: fluency is about communication, not perfection. You don't need perfect grammar to be understood.
Exactly. Think about it. When a tourist visits your country and speaks your language with mistakes, do you laugh at them? No, you appreciate their effort.
That's such a good point. Most people are kind and patient. They care about what you're saying, not whether your grammar is perfect.
The last tip: surround yourself with English as much as possible. The more you listen and speak, the more confident you'll feel.
Yes, watch English videos, join online English groups, and speak whenever you get a chance. The more you expose yourself to English, the faster you'll overcome fear.
And remember, every great English speaker was once a beginner. Keep going and fluency will come.
Absolutely! Now, let's wrap up with some final thoughts and action steps you can take today. We've covered a lot today: how to train your brain, overcome fear, and speak with confidence. But now comes the most important part: how do you make fluency a daily habit?
Yes, learning English is like going to the gym. You need consistent practice to see results. So let's break down an easy daily fluency routine that you can follow.
The first step: begin your day with English. Spend just 10 minutes listening to something in English.
This could be a podcast, an audiobook, or even a YouTube video. The key is to train your brain to think in English first thing in the morning.
Great point! And while listening, you can try shadowing, repeating what you hear to improve your pronunciation and fluency.
The next step, think in English as much as possible. Describe what you see, what you're doing, and how you feel, all in English.
Yes. For example, instead of thinking, I need to buy milk in your native language, say in your mind, I need to buy milk today. This helps you train your brain.
And if you're walking somewhere, just describe what you see. The sky is blue. I see a big tree. That person is wearing a red jacket.
Even if you don't have a speaking partner, you can still practice speaking daily. Set a timer for 5 minutes and talk about a topic in English.
Yes, you can record yourself speaking, talk to an AI chatbot, or even have a conversation with yourself in the mirror. Just keep speaking.
The goal is to get comfortable expressing your thoughts in English without hesitation.
And before you go to bed, spend just 5 minutes reviewing what you learned. You can write down new words, read a short article, or reflect on what you spoke about today.
This helps your brain store new information while you sleep. It's a simple habit that will speed up your learning.
So, let's recap. Your daily fluency routine can be 1. Listen to English for 10 minutes in the morning. 2. Think in English throughout the day. Speak for 5 minutes, even if it's to yourself. 4. Review what you learned before bed.
If you follow this simple routine, your fluency will improve faster than you think. Consistency is the key.
Absolutely. Now let's wrap things up with some final encouragement and action steps.
Wow, we've covered a lot today. We talked about why speaking English feels difficult, the science behind fluency, techniques to train your brain, overcoming fear, and even creating a daily fluency routine.
That's right. Now let's quickly recap the most important takeaways from today's conversation.
First, remember that fluency is a mindset. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep practicing.
Second, train your brain with consistent listening, speaking, and thinking in English every single day.
And third, don't let fear stop you. Mistakes are a natural part of learning. Speak, make mistakes, and learn from them.
And most importantly, make English a part of your daily life. Even 10 to 15 minutes a day can make a huge difference over time.
Now, here's your action step. Choose one technique we discussed today and start using it right away.
Yes, whether it's shadowing, thinking in English, or doing a 5-minute speaking session, just start today.
And if you found this episode helpful, subscribe to our podcast and share it with a friend who wants to improve their English.
Also, leave a comment or send us a message. What's your biggest challenge in learning English? We'd love to hear from you.
That's it for today's episode. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and remember, your fluent English brain is closer than you think.
Yes, keep going, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.